just a couple minutes now, within the next 5 or 10 minutes, we should be getting pictures of the flight crew having a snack before breakfast. And we'll be standing by for those pictures. We're at T-minus 3 hours and holding. This is Shuttle Launch Control. This is Shuttle Launch Control. We now have the STS-69 flight crew. Got Mission Specialist Mike Gernhardt. He's flying for the first time today. He'll be one of the EVA crewmen. Jim Voss, also one who will be performing an EVA. Commander David Walker, flying for the 4th time. Pilot Ken Cockrell. And Mission Specialist Jim Newman, flying for the 2nd time today. If you'll notice, the crew has dog food bowls in front of them. They've dubbed themselves the Dog Crew, and they've had a lot of fun with that title. And each of them have a dog name, and this is just a fun thing that the crew's decided to do. This is Shuttle Launch Control. The countdown clock has now resumed counting at the T-minus 3 hour mark. Proceeding on with our launch count, leading up to a planned opening of our window at 11:09 a.m. Eastern Time. It's continuing to be a very quiet countdown, with the procedures and the activities outlined in the countdown procedure being checked off per the countdown clock. We're standing by to get live pictures of the astronauts at their crew quarters as they leave and board the astronaut van to go out to the launch pad. We have Commander David Walker and Pilot Ken Cockrell. This is Shuttle Launch Control. The STS-69 crew has now arrived at the 195-foot level at pad 39A. Mission Specialist Jim Newman now taking a picture of the rest of the crew. We'll be walking across the orbiter access arm to get to the white room, which leads to the crew module.
Houston Endeavour, we are configured for ground 1 voice check.
Endeavour Houston, for the CDR and PLT only, com check on air to ground 1.
Houston Endeavour, CDR, loud and clear. PLT, loud and clear.
Houston, read CDR and PLT both loud and clear, and configure for air to ground 2.
Okay.
The orbiter's access arm will be retracted away from the vehicle.
Orbiter access arm retract.
This arm can be re-extended in just a few minutes if necessary. All items and concerns have been cleared up for launch today. Weather conditions again are go for launch, and we have no technical issues. Just past the T-minus 7-minute mark in our launch for Endeavour.
JRPS OTC, start the APU and hydraulic strip chart recorders.
Final purge underway of the main engines. Just a few seconds, a profile test of the orbiter's aero surfaces will be completed. And the three main engines are being gimbaled and positioned for launch. All systems are go for launch at this time, just a few minutes away from the 9th voyage of Endeavour with a crew of 5 on a multifaceted 11-day mission.
Promotion.
Pilot will be closing their visors in the next few seconds at the T-minus 2-minute mark.
Caution warning memory is cleared. Moment expiration.
Copy. Flight crew, close and lock your visors. Initiate O2 flow. Every dog has his day, and today is your day. On behalf of the launch team, we wish you good luck on your mission.
Lights above on the south are ready to fly.
Genesis go for ET LH2 pressurization.
Just seconds before launch, thousands of gallons of water will be dumped on the launch platform to help suppress the sound and shock.
25.
We have a go for engine start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Endeavour on the 71st flight of the Space Shuttle on a multifaceted mission.
Houston now controlling the flight of Endeavour.
Roger, roll, Endeavour.
Endeavour completes the roll to place the shuttle and touch down in the order position so we can help him advance the roll. 25 seconds into the flight, Endeavour's 3 liquid fuel main engines begin to throttle back in a 2-step fashion to 67% of rated performance. That will dampen the stress on the shuttle's aero surfaces as it breaks through the sound barrier. Five seconds into the flight, Endeavour passes through the sound barrier. The main engines begin to rev back up to full throttle. All of the engines performing normally, along with Endeavour's 3 power-producing fuel cells and 3 hydraulic power units.
Endeavour, go at throttle up.
Endeavour, Roger, go at throttle.
Throttle up call acknowledged by Commander Dave Walker. He's joined on the flight deck by pilot Ken Cockrell, flight engineer Jim Newman, and payload commander Jim Voss, mission specialist Mike Gernhardt, seated alone down on the middeck. 1 minute 35 seconds into the flight. Endeavour more than 88,000 feet in altitude, traveling more than 3,000 feet per second, already 13 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center on a due east trajectory. 1 minute 50 seconds into the flight, 15 seconds away from solid rocket booster separation. That will be confirmed by the booster officer here in Mission Control. Endeavour now 155,000 feet in altitude, more than 26.5 miles downrange. Booster officer confirms a good solid rocket booster separation.
Endeavour, performance nominal.
Endeavour, roger.
Houston, laser mark 288.
Copy.
Houston Endeavor, we have it.
Endeavor Houston, for Cujo, we copied your last about the low rate on Spartan when you came in during the fly around, and that from our initial assessment is consistent. That and the incorrect attitude of Spartan is consistent with the Spartan vehicle going into a minimum reserve power mode, sort of a shutdown, and after we've berthed Spartan, we're going to get you during the post-recovery config to give us statuses and possibly assess what might have happened.
Hey, thanks, Nanook. We're in the middle of berthing right this very instant, and we'll talk to you about that in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for calling. You can set it for TV05, and after wake shield grab.
Houston Endeavor, the wake shield is clear, and we've sent the SC2 repower command.
Copy, Endeavor.
Sound is done commanding. We'll be ready for the ADAX acquisition mode checkout.
Copy, Underdog. We have a couple more commands, and we'll be ready to turn it over.
All of the free fly or activation operations will continue at this point. The wake shield itself is called the free flyer. The other component of the wake shield facility is its carrier platform in the cargo bay.
That is expected with the wheel speed. And prior to getting into grapple range, we'd like safe hold.
Okay, safe hold.
This view from a payload bay camera in the rear of Endeavour's cargo bay, showing the robot arm being extended towards the wake shield facility for a grapple. Flight controllers here are watching the attitude control system on the wake shield very carefully, making sure it is as stable as possible at the time that the end effector reaches the grapple fixture on the satellite. Everything has gone pretty much by the book this morning. A flawless rendezvous by Commander Dave Walker and pilot Ken Cockrell to get Endeavour back into position to conduct a series of jet thruster firings upon the wake shield facility from distances of 290 and 200 feet. Unofficially, a total of 14 jet thruster firings were conducted to gather valuable data on heat, pressure, and forces impinged upon the free-flying satellite by the orbiter's jet thrusters. Astronaut Jim Newman at the aft flight deck of Endeavour, now slowly moving the robot arm in for the capture of the wake shield facility to complete 3 days of free flight. Payload controllers here, very happy with the performance of wake shield. It is a very stable satellite. The orbiter now in so-called free drift, no jet thruster firings anymore as Jim Newman moves the robot arm carefully in for the grapple of the wake shield.
This is Mission Control Houston. As Endeavour flies over the Gulf of Mexico, it holds the wake shield facility in place on the end of the shuttle's robot arm. The other of the 2 free-flying satellites that were deployed and retrieved by Endeavour during this flight, the Spartan spacecraft, can be seen in the payload bay in this particular camera view.
A off, B out on the right pod.
Thank you.
In this view from the rear payload bay cameras housed in Endeavour, this is the wake side of the wake shield facility, the side on which the carousel is located, and the growth of these thin film epitaxial materials has been conducted over 3 days of free flight. The arm now in motion, ready to rebirth the wake shield facility back into the payload bay. Jim Newman at the controls of the shuttle's robot arm, ready to place that 4,300-pound satellite back into its carrier. In this view of Endeavour's payload bay, we see the wake shield facility being maneuvered very slowly back into its berthed position, and its cross-bay carrier mounted directly behind the Spartan spacecraft, which was the first of the 2 satellites to be deployed and successfully retrieved by the 5-member crew on board Endeavour.
You're loud and clear, Houston, and just a status report. EV2 is in his suit, putting on his gloves right now, and EV1 is halfway there, waiting on a little room, and then we'll be both suited up.
Copy, Dogface. Endeavour Houston, for Middeck TV, we have an upcoming glow test at 15:53. We'd appreciate it if we could configure for glow television.
And with the closing of the hatch, the astronauts shortly will begin the 15-minute procedure to depressurize the airlock to 0, at which time the pressure in the airlock will be equivalent to the vacuum of space, and then they'll get the go-ahead to open up the hatch and begin the 6.5-hour spacewalk to test thermal modifications made to their spacesuits, as well as some of the tools and some of the key techniques of minute dexterity and the handling of small screws, tools, connectors at a worksite in the payload bay, which will ultimately be mimicked in the assembly of the International Space Station.
Easy. Don't pull too hard. Yeah, I'll hold it there. Hold it where I get this, okay. Test checklist. Yeah, goes, there you go. There you go. There we go. Okay, I've got both debris shield tools in. Both feathers are on. Ready? Go. Okay, I'm releasing it.
Gernhardt is removing this shield.
I've got the shield. Debris shield going back in. We're ready to go to the forward bulkhead. Okay, back to the forward bulkhead. I'll meet you there.
Again, a test of the dexterity of Mike Gernhardt as he stands in a portable foot restraint at the end of Endeavour's robot arm. The shield is 0.063 inches in thickness, made of aluminum.
For the rigid tether, just tethering off the shield right now. Yeah. I just had to move it to get it out tight. Okay, that's good.
The comfort level is measured in a scale from 2 to 8.
Big boy, and put him on the rigid tether.
2 being the coldest acceptable condition, 8 being the hottest acceptable condition.
Thank you. I thought I had them off, but I guess there was one still on. So you're doing good, Pluto. Let me know when you want a GCA. I'm going to be doing the MLI removal.
Again, in your picture, astronaut Jim Voss out over the starboard sill of the payload bay, he wearing the suit with the red stripes.
Okay, there's the MLI folded in half. In order to rate that task, difficult to get it off the classes at the top just because of clearance. I would recommend I get a little bit more clearance around the corners. The actual handling of the MLI is fine. I would rate that an A. Copy all. So I'm going to put it back together and then stow it.
Again, Gernhardt manipulating multi-layer insulation blanketing at the work site along the starboard side of the payload bay, the type of insulation that will cover space station modules.
I put a pretty substantial torque into it, but it still holds in the soft dock.
Right above Voss's head right now is the Spartan Solar Science satellite, which a week ago at this moment was free flying from Endeavour.
Noble handrail. Move on about the same. The top dock is not acceptable where it is. It wants to come off. I have to compensate excessively. I don't even consider it really a soft dock. I'm almost like I'm holding it in place. It doesn't restrain it very well at all. And then I can easily lock it in place. And once it's locked into place, or the actual locking in place is quite easy. Okay, I got the hand holder moved, put it back on. And that was typically fine. Just soft dock, face load, I give it an A.
Okay.
Just sitting with
As Endeavour crosses the west coast of Africa at an altitude of about 214 statute miles, Jim Voss being lowered back toward Endeavour's payload bay after conducting some thermal evaluations of his spacesuit.
we're just placing the NOI.
Is reattaching a debris shield to the task board on which a number of tool handling techniques were evaluated during today's spacewalk.
And method of grounding here, using the, Peter can raise me up about a foot, using the 3 stiff wires and the little wing nut to the D. Difficult hand. Okay, that's released. And move it around. Right up here to this one. Yeah. Here. Send it to me and I'll mount up here. I got it? Yeah, you got it. Okay, I got it. Let go. Here, fellas. Great.
EV2 Mike Gernhardt now working at removing the thermal cube.
We're a little behind the timeline, but we're getting there. There you go. To the airlock, please.
That thermal cube was providing objective data as to the temperatures that were being experienced by the 2 crew members as they worked outside in Endeavour's payload bay. In addition to that objective data recorded on the thermal cube, the astronauts also reported their own subjective feelings on a scale ranging from 2 to 8, with 2 being cold and 8 being hot. And now Jim Newman on board Endeavour, maneuvering Jim Voss toward the airlock so that he can restow both this multi-layer insulation blanket and the thermal cube that he holds in his hand as the astronauts continue configuring Endeavour and cleaning up the payload bay at the final portions of today's spacewalk. And we are currently at the 6-hour mark of that spacewalk, just slightly behind the timeline.
Commander Dave Walker now has taken over manual control, flying Endeavour around the heading alignment circle.
Endeavour, you are on energy at the 180.
Endeavour, roger.
Walker is negotiating a banking right-hand turn of 237 degrees, now halfway around that turn. The early morning sunlight glistening off the tiled belly of the orbiter as it aligns itself with runway 33 and a landing on the southeast to northwest strip, the 3-mile-long landing strip at the Kennedy Space Center. On final approach, Endeavour will be descending at an angle 7 times steeper than that of a commercial jetliner.
Endeavour, you are on at the 90.
Endeavour, roger.
Commander Dave Walker will be flaring up the shuttle's nose just prior to touchdown and just prior to the deployment of the landing gear by pilot Ken Cockrell. Endeavour now less than 2 minutes from touchdown.
Runway in sight, Houston.
Copy, Endeavour, runway in sight.
Endeavour now aligned with runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Wings are level, the shuttle very stable. Less than a minute from touchdown. Walker beginning to flare up the nose. Main gear touchdown. Cockrell now deploying the drag chute. Nose gear touchdown. Endeavour rolling out on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center to complete a 4.5 million mile mission, the 71st in shuttle program history.